being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I'm excited to talk about your business journey and kind of help others with the ideas of what it takes to build a business that lasts. You have built a business over the long term and been successful with that through the years. So I'm just going to kind of pick your brain a little bit and share some of those ideas. We're actually in similar industries, it looks like. So I actually love those conversations. Some people would say, why would you have somebody on your show who does similar things to what your agency does? And I'm like, there's plenty of fish in the sea. There's plenty of work to be done. And I actually love having conversations with other agency owners and people that do similar things because I think there's just a lot of value there. So I'm glad to have you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
So tell me a little bit about your story, and what your business is like, how you've gotten to where you are. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, especially in this season, are maybe thinking about starting a business. And, for you and I, that may be a long time ago when we first started our first business or had our first ideas, but some people are experiencing that now and they're wanting to hear other people's stories. So tell me a little bit about your story and how you got started and what you do now.
Well, to be able to do paid media well, you need to have a very analytical mind. So I've always worked in performance-based marketing. Even whenever I started in direct response advertising, which was infomercials. So whenever the internet advertising became super cool, and then Facebook got into it and made it even huger, then for me, it was a natural progression to that type of advertising. There's so many cool things that you can do with paid media that are not just generating sales. So whenever I went from traditional advertising to digital advertising, I saw people approaching paid media the same way that they had been approaching traditional advertising, same concepts, same measuring tools. So paid media in social media or even in Google was kind of like an afterthought. So I wanted to elevate paid media inside the marketing toolbox that companies had. So to be something that helps businesses accomplish more than just immediate sales, but that helps them create a brand and helps them define the audience. So that's why I went into paid media, and that's why Spring Hill Digital only specializes in paid media. We don't do organic, we don't build websites. We do help with analytics because at the end of the day, it helps us in paid media. But we're very niche in that sense that we know everything that there is to know about paid media. So also, so that was why I went into paid media. That's why Spring Hill Digital only does paid media. But also I wanted to create a new concept of agency. And I use agency kind of lightly because we're more like a brain trust of people that love what we do. We put teams together that are designed for the marketing needs of the client. So we design the strategy, we optimize the budget, we make sure that we hit those KPIs, and we take care of managing the team, and the brand only has to deal with one person. But know that our team is there, one, because they wanted to work on your brand, and two, because they're experts at what you need at that moment. So that also gives us the flexibility of, if we need more, then we can scale up. If we need less, we can scale down. So you're not stuck with a fixed team of people that may or may not be interested in your brand. Everybody is asked, do you want to work in this brand and, do what you do best? So I do believe that at the end of the day, people that come to work and work on what they want to work on and what they are good at will actually produce a better work at the end of the day.
That's super interesting. So there's a lot of things that you covered there, and I want to back up to like the real basics for people who may not be as familiar with our world of advertising and may not even really know what you mean by paid media. So let's break it down like super basic level. Somebody who's like, well, what does she mean by paid media? Talk about what you mean by that term now versus maybe what it used to be and how you're using that to help people get attention for their businesses.
Absolutely. So in paid media, what we do most is social paid media. So ads that are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, if you have a B2B business. We also do Google search marketing. So your ads on Google or Bing. Then also, and depending on your objectives, we will enter native advertising, which is whenever you're in a news site, as an example, MSNBC or something like that, there are parts of that website that is dedicated to advertisers. So they insert their articles there or their ads there. So that is another way of advertising. And
So
so, yeah.
I'm curious, because you started out kind of prior to the current social media ad world, right? And you mentioned very quickly earlier the idea of like infomercials.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, and even like direct response marketing. Like what kind of changes have you seen from that world into what people are doing today? And do you think that people are messing that transition up from what they used to do to what they're trying to do in digital today?
Definitely. So, in some ways, direct response advertising or infomercials, it just sounds so much cooler to say direct
Yeah,
response advertising.
right.
So, in that world, we always had the measurements that we needed to make a good strategy move forward. So, every day or every week, we would get actually the log of calls, how many people called to what station, what they order, where in the script, because the call centers will have a script that they will drive you through, where did they drop off and
Mm,
what was the feedback that they gave us. So in that sense, it was very similar to digital advertising, where if I put an ad on Facebook, I get how many people saw it, how many people clicked on it, uh, did they arrive to the landing page, then in the landing page, what did they do, etc., etc. So those two things are very similar. However, the feedback that you can receive in social media, in paid social media, in ads, people feel free to comment, and as they should. So you're opening a conversation.
mm,
And so approaching social paid media or advertising in this platform should be approached as, I am going to open that conversation. Is this something that is going to go, is it going to be a two-way street? Because if you're approaching it as we couldn't on TV, where it's a passive medium, I give you my message and you do with it whatever you want, but I'm going to give it to you. In social paid media, you're going to have them answering back, giving you feedback. The landing page didn't work. I think your tone is off. There is a lot of opinions out there. So you need to be prepared for those comments. And a lot of people are not prepared for that conversation that it's going to happen, or are afraid of it. And sometimes they ask me, well, how do I turn off comments? I'm like, why would you? Why would you? They're talking to you. And that is what is so amazing about how advertising has evolved, especially in digital. Listen to your audience, learn from them so that you can actually serve them better. Or maybe you're advertising to the wrong audience. That is the difference between now and then. And even if you go farther to like normal traditional advertising, which was just ads and nobody was tracking what was happening to the ads, then you can even see a bigger difference. So are people, no way to answer your question, are people messing up that transition? Yes, a lot of the times. Because also people come to those platforms thinking, I will put an ad and money will rain down. And it's not how it happens anymore. Maybe at the very beginning of Facebook advertising, that was the case, that you could put anything up and it will work. Now, audiences are very selective and they're very savvy, and you have to account for that.
Yeah, I think that's just such a great point. And the idea that you're opening a conversation, not just trying to sell something to someone, is such a big mistake that a lot of people make by doing the opposite. And I always say it's like walking into a networking meeting and walking around to everyone with your business card and going, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me.
Mhm.
And nobody wants to do that. You know, they want to be engaged, they want to be cared for, they want to know that you know what their problem is and you have a solution to help solve it. And that's not always going to happen with that first, like, you know, image that you stick up on there in an ad and put some money behind it, and all of a sudden you're expecting it to create a 10x return, and it's probably not going to. One of the things that you mentioned was using paid media to accomplish more than just sales. What
Yeah.
did you mean by that? Talk us through what you mean by using paid media to accomplish more than just sales.
So it's going back to that conversation of paid media is going to allow you to get out of your immediate followers. It's going to bring you new audiences that you think, by researching them, that are going to be receptive to your message. So those new audiences are going to have a different perspective on your brand because you're new to them. So learning about the new interactions, learning about somebody that doesn't know you, how attractive you are to them. Are you solving that problem the way you thought you were going to? Because whenever you have followers, they love your brand for many reasons. They may or may not be forthcoming about your, you know, how you could do it better, because they're your fans, they love you. Now somebody that doesn't love you will be more honest about it and will say, you know what, this doesn't work for me for X and Y reason, or I think, you know, you're approaching this wrong, or many different ways. So it's gonna go from your followers to more new people. And also, what you thought your audience looked like may not be what they really look like. Maybe you thought that it was women 35 to 45, and you target those people and you see, actually, that was not it. It was a younger demographic, or it was older, or actually it was males. So use it to learn instead of just to generate sales.
And that's the beauty, really, of the access to analytics that we have now versus what used to exist. I mean, we can be as granular as we want with regards to what that data looks like. One of the big problems that I see sometimes when companies are advertising through ad agencies of some sort who maybe aren't as forthcoming or transparent as maybe they should be, a lot of times people will see things like just total number of impressions, just total number of ad share. I mean, that's kind of the old world way, right? Like how many eyeballs drove past your billboard, and that's the number that they could give you, other than maybe a phone tracking number or something like that. But, you know, in this digital world, what kind of data should people be looking at to know if their ads that they're running are actually effective? How can they make those decisions to go, hey, we should spend more money on this, the same money, or less money? What kind of things should business owners be using to make decisions around those advertising vehicles?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So it goes back to your goal. What do you want to achieve with your ad? Which actually it's always sales, but is it brand awareness first of all? Do you want your name to be out there and be known for something? Or do you want to just drive people to your new website and actually convert them there? So you have to be very specific about what your goal is. But in general, apart from impressions or likes to your page or something like that, it's good to always look at the engagement that audience is having with your ads. That's my favorite place to look at and to see if this is a truly successful message. One, because if people share your post in their news feed, is that your message resonates so well with them that they're sharing their house with you. They're sharing their news feed with you. So make sure to look at that. Make sure to see post saves as an example, so that people, maybe it was not the right time, but it's the right message and they're going to come back to look at it. So those are the things that I look. Also comments. Look at those comments. What are they saying? And take the opportunity to be inside that conversation and respond to them. So those are the soft kind of KPIs that I look at to see if an ad is truly successful. Then you look at how many people clicked and landed on your page, and then what what they did after that. Did they convert or did they not? But beyond impressions, beyond likes, beyond just simple clicks, look at that engagement. That's going to tell you so much more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially on social. A lot of people don't even realize if they have a business page, they can click into that ad or into that post and they can see all that data that you're talking about. And especially things like shares, saves, and comments, like you said. Facebook will actually give that ad, or that, especially if it's an organic post, but they'll do it with ads too. They'll give it more exposure, essentially. And the same thing can be true. I always tell people sometimes to look at negative indicators as well. If people mark that post as spam or they hide it or something like that, that can have negative implications towards the promotion of that ad. And it also may mean that it's being targeted to the wrong audience, or it's tone deaf, or something like that. And gosh, I see so many mistakes where people run ads and do things where there's all these comments and nobody's replied to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's a huge turn.
are you spending more money on other ads or other things over here when you haven't even replied to these 50 people that are in this ad set right here who, could be potential customers?
Yes, because those conversations are going to happen whether you're in them or not. They're going to talk about your brand, right? So if you're in them, you can actually help them understand your product or your messaging. Sometimes a lot of the negative comments come out of ignorance by the audience. Maybe your topic is way too complicated, so much so that you cannot explain it in one post. Then take the time to respond to those comments and actually explain what you meant. And maybe that will inform your next ad actually addresses that question in particular, if it's, a repeat question, a frequent asked question. So yeah, negative indicators also are a huge thing to look for. Also as a preventive measure, because Facebook will penalize you if you have ads that don't convert, ads that are poor quality, and that don't give anything of value to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are really good things for people to think about. I want to circle back to something you were talking about a little bit earlier, and it was around the idea of compiling a team or a brain trust to work with a particular client. I think one of the most difficult things in growing a business and making a business last is assembling the right teams with the right people on them, kind of the right seats on the bus, the right people in those seats, and making some of those decisions. So I'm curious for you, like, what have you learned through the years of things that didn't work and things that ultimately that have worked for you in your particular structure?
Yeah, well, what has worked for us is definitely really looking at previous work of people that we bring into the team. And we really use our networks to make sure that we get the most honest opinion on the quality of their work. So we will ask somebody that knows somebody. Also, just look for how curious that person is. Is it a person that just is very good at one area but stop updating their knowledge? Or is it somebody that continuously is improving, continuously is innovating? When we have gotten into situations that we didn't want to be in was whenever we didn't take those steps to check their work, or whenever we didn't ask the right questions that showed us whether that person was curious enough to continue innovating. And so everybody that we bring into the team, you may be more or less experienced, but if you have that curiosity, then you're gonna do a great job, because you're gonna continue to bring new things to the team.
I love that idea of curiosity as kind of a primary indicator for a good team member, because I think that is really important. I have found over the years that the people who are the most successful are the ones who want to keep learning and growing, especially in our field where things are changing every day. It seems like certainly constantly. I mean, next time you log into Facebook, I think over the last 2 months, Facebook's been trying all kinds of different UIs on the mobile experience. And I mean, I've probably seen 5 different versions of like the nav bar across the bottom of my Facebook page. And really, they're just A/B testing, tons of stuff to see what's working, what's not working. And so having that curiosity in a team member is huge, because it sets the stage for you as the leader not needing to be the only person who's bringing new ideas to the table, because you can't grow that way. And ultimately, with having the right people around you, long enough, you realize as much as I might like to think that I'm the one with the best ideas in the room, that's not always true. And having the right people in there changes everything.
Yeah, I like to surround myself with people that know more than I do in in a specific area. So do I understand Google Ads? Yes, enough to talk to the client to say, you know, what happened? What are we doing about it? What strategy could we work with? But I do have two Google Ads specialists that I know that I will bring to the team if I think they're a good fit, that know way more than I do. So the same for creative. We develop creative for our clients, and I'm a very analytical person. I am not a creative person. I don't know if red or orange are the best, you know, colors for your ad. However, this creative person that's the only thing they do, they just do creative and art direction, will be able to tell you.
Right.
And that's fine. It's sometimes humbling to find out how much you do not know. And that's my favorite part of the day, whenever I'm like, wow, I just learned something new from a team member,
Mm-hmm.
because that's their specialty. And
Yeah.
so it is scary sometimes too, but
Yeah, for
but
sure.
it is good.
One of the things that I heard one time that I really liked was from a guy named Andy Stanley, and he said, as organizational authority increases, so as you get higher into an organization, especially when you're the leader or the founder, individual competencies often decrease.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a reality of, like, back in the day when I started this thing and I was building my own websites and creating my own graphics and everything else, I was better. I can't continue to be good at all those individual competencies.
Yeah.
I certainly can't be the best at them. And I might be better than a lot of people who've never done those things before, never fired up Photoshop and never written a line of code, but I'm not better than somebody who's a full-time designer. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
better than somebody who's a full-time developer. I'm not better than somebody who's a full-time ad strategist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think remembering that when you're a leader is really important, because sometimes I think leaders can put themselves on a high horse and end up in a place where they're not getting the feedback that they need from the people around them that's actually going to make them better, much
Mm-hmm.
less actually make the client better too.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is, again, sometimes difficult to hear that you're not the best at everything,
Yeah.
right? Because most of us have started this thing. We were alone, we did it, and we did everything, and then we start delegating, and you're like, oh, she or he's not doing it the same way that I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so letting go of that control, just to find out that maybe her way is better, right? That is scary. That's the scary part. Oh, I
Yeah.
wouldn't put the ad there. I wouldn't do that picture, oh, that copy. So you surround yourself with people that know more so that you can learn and you can guide them to where you want the account to go, where you want to be as a team, not each individual. And that's a skill too that has to be learned and that it's needed. And as a leader, that's your role now. That's your competency. But yeah, you lose touch with the everyday things and how did the platform evolve? What is this little thing hidden here that will make your ad so much better? Well, that's why you have somebody that is constantly looking at that
Yeah.
and making it better.
Absolutely. What were some of the biggest difficulties or hurdles that you've had to overcome as you've grown your business through the years? Like, what were some of those roadblocks that you kind of ran into, and how did you find your way around them?
Well, roadblocks, not as much roadblocks as uncomfortable situations,
Mm.
have been where in the past we have bitten more than we could chew. We're really proud about how deep our relationships go with our clients, and that takes time and takes trust and it takes a partnership. And at some points, we grew to the level that we couldn't maintain that type of relationship. So at that time, you have to choose, why am I here? Am I
Mm-hmm.
here to just make a whole bunch of money, or what's our mission? And so we scaled back, we regroup, and now we're very selective on the type of clients that we accept. Spring Hill Digital was always thought of a partner for our clients, so we avoid relationships where the client just wants to give us an order and then we go make it happen for them. We're not order takers,
Mm.
or we do not follow blindly. We're experts. So we will give feedback. We will push the brand towards innovative thoughts and different ways of doing things that make them uncomfortable. At the end of the day, I want to clarify that it's their money, it's their budget, and we will probably come up to a win-win situation where they need to be comfortable with what we're going to put out there. But our job as experts is to give an opinion on what we know best, which is paid media or that particular channel. So that has been uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, I think that is so important. And this is such a hard lesson to learn, is that not every client is the right client for you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're in the early years and you're just trying to find a way to make some money.
Exactly.
Ultimately, you got to pay the bills, you got to keep the lights on. You're willing to do more to try and make that happen. But there definitely comes a season in business where you have to step back and go, wait, hold on. Who are the clients that we actually like to work with? Who are the clients who we're best suited to help? Who are the clients who are the most profitable? I mean, all those questions start to come into play. And it's not ever just about money. It's especially not just about money, actually, because you can have a client who's a total nightmare, who might be making you a lot of money, and they're just not worth it.
Yeah.
And so at some point, those relationships have to step apart from each other, just like anywhere else in life. If you had a horrible friend who wasn't really a friend, at some point, they're not a friend anymore. And the same is true with the client, that is a relationship that can and should be severed if it's not mutually beneficial in the long run, because those are the best things. Those are the things that help us grow businesses over time.
Exactly. And, you know, as difficult as they are, you have to take that decision, and you cannot, like, my problem is I always think I can fix it. I can fix anything, and I can fix this. And only if we did this, only if we did that. And once that relationship is proven not to be beneficial for both parties, then just politely say, you know what, we've grown apart, and just leave, instead of trying to fix it constantly, because you're constantly on a fixing mode, and it takes more time than it's really worth it for either one of you. And the frustration starts building up, not only in your team, but in their team as well. So yeah, letting go and just recognizing that you're at a point where this is not working anymore, it's obviously always difficult, but it needs to be done. Otherwise you're stuck, and you cannot get out of it.
I love what you said a minute ago when you said we're not order takers, we're experts.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important, for people who are experts in their fields. At some point, they need to own that reality. And I even told this to my team the other day. We were working on a project, and the client was wanting a lot of different options, and the client was want to make a lot of decisions. And I told the team, I'm like, guys, our job is not to give them a bunch of options for them to make the decision. Our job is to tell the client what they need based on the goals that they've stated. They said they want to go here, and we say, in order to get there, here's the things you need to do in order to get there. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the client's going to do what you said, which is give us an order and say, do these things, which at the end of the day, if they're the ones writing the check, I will do that. I'm just not going to do the things that they tell us to do and also be expected to reach this goal metric over here. I'm only going to reach the goal metric over here if we're doing the things that we have said will take them to that place. And I think that is where, as an expert, our job most of the time is to tell someone what to do. I was actually in a situation yesterday with this. I was trying to get some new insurance quotes for our business. And the agent was asking me all these questions about which policy I thought would be better for us, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. You're the expert. You tell me what I need. Here's what I want to protect. Here's what I don't want to happen. Here's the security I want to create. Tell me what I need. Tell me how much it's going to cost, and tell me where to sign. And that's what I want, And I think a lot of other businesses out there want that too. And if those of us like you and I and other people who are in business would be willing to embrace that reality and not be scared to go, no, this is what you need to do. And look, I can't guarantee anything's going to be 100% success. None of us can, but we can promise that it's the best plan based on our experience. If that doesn't work, we're going to make an adjustment and go from there. And in ads, like you said earlier, it's not like you're going to put an ad out there and it's just going to be perfect from the start. Advertising is a big testing ground a lot of times to see what's going to work, right?
Exactly, exactly. So we can do a lot of things based on our experience. But yeah, so whenever you were talking, it was um, I was imagining like you go to Africa and want to go on a safari, and you have a guide tour, and the
Yeah.
tour is like, okay, we're gonna go through this path, and this is where we're gonna go, and you're like, no, I want to take a walk through the lions. Then I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, love your creativity, but let's not go to the lions then. Let's just stay in the path where I will take you where you want to go. But people wouldn't do that, right? But
Yeah.
because he's the expert. And so, yeah, and embracing that, especially whenever you have to pay a mortgage, when you have to pay your team, and just establishing those hard lines is sometimes difficult to say no to the client. But I do believe that from the beginning, whenever you clarify this is a partnership,
Hmm.
I'm the expert and I welcome your feedback, you welcome mine, let's get to a place where we both agree that this is a good path. If we get off the path, then these are the consequences. Are you ready to take them? Fantastic, then we'll go there. But know that that can happen, and that I told you it would.
Yeah.
So I will hold your hand through it. You want to jump off that cliff? I'll hold your hand all the way through, but know that it's going to hurt when you fall, right?
That's great. Yeah, I love that. I think that's really important. Let's transition a little bit. I always like to ask about this towards the end of the show, and that is a question of work-life balance. It
Mm-hmm.
means something different to everybody, and I think it's different in different seasons of life too. It was different when I started and I was, in my low 20s than it is now when I'm in my late 30s with 5 children. So I'm curious for you, what does work-life balance mean, number one? And
Mm-hmm.
number two, what's it like for you? What have you learned about it? How has it changed over different seasons of life?
Yeah. Well, my work, can be done from anywhere in the world, and it can be done at any time, pretty much. So, since I'm not a good sleeper, a lot of people receive emails at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I like that. I like that I don't have to clock in at 9 to an office and get out at 5. It's kind of like a continuous. So, I've had this conversation with my kids. I have 2 kids, and we talk about it often where we go into the fact that thanks to mommy's work, I can physically be with them in many places that other parents can't. The only trade-off is that I have to take my work with me. I have to be on my phone answering emails. Sometimes I bring my computer whenever they're in jiu-jitsu class or something like that. But again, that allows us to go to Spain for a month or go to Germany for 3 weeks and experience the world in a very different way. But at the end of the day, also, I believe that by showing this to my kids, they can see firsthand that hard work is an important part of life. And
Mm,
especially with girls, I'm showing my daughter that girls can do anything if you put your mind to it.
sure.
So, I mean, for all the moms and dads, and this, um, it's not a Pinterest life. It's messy, it's hard, it gets complicated, and sometimes there is a pandemic and you have your kids at home for 2 months.
Right.
And you have to reassess on how we do this, and sometimes the deadlines just approach and work comes first, and we all have to accept it. And so it's a family decision as well. But that's, I don't know that there is a balance, as everything happens at the same time,
Mm.
and sometimes one thing takes priority and sometimes another, but it helps to have those conversations often.
Yeah, I always say it's not really a balance. It's more like a blender. And some days you need a little bit more spinach, and some days you need a little bit more fruit. And it all just
Mhm.
gets blended together. And, some days you get to breathe a little bit, others you just got to run, run, run. And that's just the nature of life.
Exactly. Sometimes you're like, this is amazing, everybody should do it, and
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, oh my god, breathe.
Right. So, two final questions today. One, if people want to find more about you online, where can they do that? But then, most importantly, as well, um, what parting thoughts do you want to leave with people who want to build a business that lasts?
So you can find us at springhilldigital.com. We also have a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page, and you can always send me an email. If you go to info@springhilldigital.com, actually that goes into my inbox. So any questions, any follow-ups, happy to answer them. I love talking to people about their opportunities. And yeah, any parting advice? I would say believe in what you do and love what you do, because when things get hard, sometimes the passion for what you do and the believing what can be accomplished is the only thing that will keep you going. When everything turns around, and owning a business is a challenging endeavor. So if you love what you do, you'll get out of it. You'll get out of that difficult situation. You'll find a way. But if you don't, you'll give up. And then you won't be successful. So
absolutely, that's really good counsel, and thank you for all your advice and input and feedback today. I think it'll be helpful for those that listen. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, I hope this video has helped you with some tips and ideas to build a business that lasts. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss out on the next videos that we roll out. And more importantly, for some awesome free resources, head over to our website at buildingabusinessthatlasts.com. You can get a free copy of my book there, where I tell you how I have built an agency that's grown year over year for the last 20 years in a row. So go grab that, buildingabusinessthatlasts.com, and make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks. We'll see you soon.